जय श्री गोविंद गोपीनाथ मदन मोहन जू की जय नित्य प्रविष्टम विष्णुपार अष्टोत्तर शत शिशिमार भक्ति वेदांत नारायण गोसाई महाराज श्री गुरुदेव की जय नित्य प्रविष्टम विष्णुपार अष्टोत्तर शत शिशिमार भक्ति वेदांत वामन गोसाई महाराज की जय नित्य प्रविष्टम विष्णुपार अष्टोत्तर शत शिशिमार भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी महाराज श्री प्रभुपाद की जय नित्य प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद अष्टोत्तर शतशिमार भक्ति प्रज्ञान केशव गोसाई महाराज की जय नित्य प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद अष्टोत्तर शतशिमार भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोसाई प्रभुपाद की जय नित्य प्रविष्ट महाभागवत श्री गोक्षर बाबूजी महाराज की जय नित्य प्रविष्ट ओम विष्णुपाद अष्टोत्तर शतशिमार sorry, Nitil Pravishta Mahabhagavat Srila Goksharas Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Nitil Pravishta Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Ṭhākura ki jai. Nitil Pravishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Shri Rupa Nugagoriya Guru Varga ki jai. Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath. Shri Jiva Gopala Bhattadas Raghunath Sharda Gosai Prabhu ki jai. Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda ki jai. नाम आचार्य श्रील हरिदास ठाकुर की जय प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जय श्री क्षेत्र मंडल गौर मंडल व्रज मंडल मथुरा वृंदावन धाम की जय सर्व अभिष्ट प्रदात गिरिराज महाराज की जय श्री राधा कुंद की जय श्री यमुना देवी गंगा देवी की जय श्री तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जय श्री भक्ति देवी की जय श्री पूर्णमासी योग माया की जय श्री गोपेश्वर महादेव की जय श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय श्रील विश्वनाथ चक्रवर्ती ठाकुर Sārārtha-darśinī वृत्ति की जय श्रील भक्तिसिद्धांत सरस्वती प्रभुपाद गौड़ीय भाष्य की जय श्री उद्धव-गीता की जय श्री अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय समागत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय श्री निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि वो ओम ज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः नमो ॐ विष्णुपदाय राधिकाय प्रियात्मने श्री श्रीमद्भक्तिवेदान्त नारायणीति नामिने नमो ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नाम्ने गौरतिषे नमः गुरुवे गौरचन्द्राय राधिकाय तदालय कृष्णाय कृष्णभक्ताय तद्भक्ताय नमो नमः यं प्रव्रजन्तमनुपेतमपेतकृत्यं द्वैपायनो विरहकातर आजुहाव पुत्रेति तन्मयतरवोभिनेदुस्तं सर्वभूत हृदयं मुनिमानतोऽस्मि नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत् शृण्वतां स्वकथा कृष्ण पुण्यश्रवणकीर्तना हृदन्तस्तो ह्यभद्राणि विधुनोति सुहृत्सतम् नष्टप्रायेष्वभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवत्युत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टकी तवैवास्मि न जीवामि त्वया विना इति विज्ञाय राधे त्वां नायमां चरणान्तिकम् Bhaktya vihina aparada lakshaya Kshiptastakama ditaranga madhe Kripa mai tvam sharanam prapanna Vrinde namaste charana ravindam Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna, Gargaraj ji, Dandavat Pranam, Rukmini Didi, Pranams, Sudevi Didi, Pranams, Raseshwari Mataji, Hari Bol, Dandavat Pranam. Okay, so, oh, and I'm not sure if Indira Mataji is here or if she's traveling to the west now. She said 3 days. Okay, anyways, if Indira Mataji is watching, Pranams. All right, so, okay, so in the 11th canto, we heard Narad Muni was giving teachings to Vasudeva and about the Nava-yogendras and the King Nimi's questions to the Nava-yogendras. And then Vasudeva and Devaki gave up all illusion and became freed from anxiety about Krishna's imminent, like that Krishna was going to leave. Now, thereafter, Lord Brahma and the other demigods came to Dwarka and offered their prayers to the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, anticipating his imminent disappearance. Addressing Brahma, Lord Krishna disclosed that he would soon depart from this world after withdrawing the Yadu dynasty, having already made the arrangements for that through the curse of the sages. Understanding Krishna's plan, Uddhava, the unalloyed devotee and dearest friend of Krishna, was overwhelmed with separation and anxiety. Uddhava approached Krishna with folded hands, pleading to take him along pleading Krishna to take him with him to his spiritual abode. During his manifest pastimes on the earth, Krishna had exchanges with several of his devotees at Vrindavan, Mathura, Dwarka, Indraprastha, Hastinapur, Mithila, and so on. He had also graced heavenly planets with his presence and gave darshan to Aditi and Kashyapa during the Parijata tree episode. He had visited the lower planets to retrieve Sandipani Muni's son and met Bali Maharaj and Yamaraj there. He even went to Vaikuntha and met Mahavishnu and others on the plea of retrieving the sons of a Brahmin in Dwarka. And one place where Krishna hadn't personally visited during his earthly sojourn, however, was Badarik Ashram, where the great sages Nara Narayan resided. With his departure due now, Krishna wanted Uddhava to go and enlighten the sages at Badarik Ashram on his behalf. Krishna considered Uddhava as good as his own self, and thus imparted confidential teachings called the Uddhava-gīta to him. This Uddhava-gīta forms the longest philosophical section of this magnum opus literature, Srimad Bhagavatam. In it, Krishna spoke about bhakti, jnana, and vairagya to teach us through Uddhava. So Krishna is going to talk about equal vision, becoming one's own guru, the process of disentanglement, the nature of fruit of activity, conditioned and liberated souls, and what's next after that? And the bhakta and the best bhakti. True bhakta. What is a true bhakta and the best bhakti? Okay, so we read up to verse 10, I think, right? So I'm just going to read the translations until 10. The Supreme Lord said, O most fortunate Uddhava, what you have ascertained about my desire to destroy the Yadu dynasty and then return to Vaikuntha is correct. This is actually my desire, and Brahma, Shiva, and the other demigods are praying for me to return to my abode in Vaikuntha. The mission for which I descended on this earth, along with my plenary portion Balaram, the noble act of diminishing the burden of the earth because of the prayerful request of Brahma, has now been fulfilled. Now, as a result of the Brahman's curse, the Yadu dynasty will be annihilated in a fratricidal war. And on the 7th day from today, the ocean will overflood the city of Dwarka. O saintly Uddhav, I will soon abandon this earth. Thereafter, being overwhelmed by the age of Kali, the earth will become bereft of all piety. My dear Uddhav, you should not remain on the earth after I return to my eternal abode in the spiritual sky, because Kali Yuga will influence human beings so that they will become accustomed to performing all kinds of sinful activities. For this reason, you should not remain here. Now you should completely give up all attachments to your friends and relatives and fix your mind on me. Thus, being always conscious of me, you should observe all things with equal vision while wandering throughout the world. My dear Uddhav, know for certain that this material world, which you perceive through your mind, speech, eyes, ears, and other senses, is an illusory creation that one imagines to be real due to the influence of Maya. You should know that all of the objects of the material senses are temporary. That person whose mind is bewildered by illusion perceives many differences in value and meaning among material objects. Thus, one engages constantly on the platform of material good and evil and is bound by such conceptions. Absorbed in material duality, such a person contemplates the performance of compulsory duties, non-performance of such duties, and the performance of forbidden duties, karma, akarma, and vikarma. Therefore, you should control your mind and senses and see this material world, which is full of happiness and distress, as situated within the self, and also see that this individual self is situated within me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay, so that's where we read up to yesterday. Now, text 10. Jnana vijnana samyukta atma bhuta sharirinam atma anubhavatushtatma nantarayar vihanyase. Being fully endowed with conclusive knowledge of the Vedas, and having realized the ultimate purpose of such knowledge and practice, you will be able to perceive the pure self and become self-satisfied. In this way, you will become dear to all living beings, headed by the demigods, and you will never be obstructed by any impediment. Sārārtha-darśinī commentary by Śrīla Viśvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura. Haribo, Indira Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. If one does not act with a mind fixed on Kṛṣṇa, then the demigods will create obstacles. This is being explained here. The word Gyan means ascertaining the purport of the Vedas. The word Vijñāna means to realize that purport. One must possess both. When one is self-realized, one automatically becomes satisfied. In that condition, one becomes the object of affection of those who have demigod bodies. This is confirmed in the Vedas, wherein it is stated, Atma hyesham sabhavatiti. Such a soul is very joyful. Thereafter, the demigods no longer create any disturbance. Now, Gauḍīya Bhāṣya commentary by Śrīla Bhaktisiddhānta Sarasvatī Gosvāmī Prabhupāda. Due to lack of knowledge regarding the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vrajendra Nandan, who is one without a second, the impersonalists cannot understand that both the object of worship and the worshippers are situated in the eternal spiritual kingdom. But because the eternal devotees of Kṛṣṇa, who accept the personal form of the Lord and who are expert in seeing spiritual variegatedness, are blissful due to realizing their service to Kṛṣṇa, they become liberated from the conception of seeing the difference between the body and the owner of the body. In such a state, the insignificance of the four objectives of life is exposed. Those who are devoid of love for Hari and to glorify the concept of impersonalism, which is a snare of Hari's illusory energy Maya, face an impediment in their path of self-realization. As a result, they bring about their own ruination, as did Kṛṣṇa, Jarasandha, and so on. Theoretical knowledge can be purified when it is practically applied. Okay. Dosha buddho bhayatito nishedhana nivartate guna buddha cha vihitam na karoti yatarbhaka. One who has attained the transcendental platform beyond the influence of material dualities, such as good and evil, will automatically follow religious principles and avoid sinful acts. A self-realized soul acts in this way without separate endeavor, just like an innocent child, and not because he considers everything in terms of a materialistic conceptions of good and evil. Wait, I just want to reread that because I was thinking about something else while I was reading that. One who has attained the transcendental platform beyond the influence of material dualities, such as good and evil, will automatically follow religious principles and avoid sinful acts. A self-realized soul acts in this way without separate endeavor, just like an innocent child, and not because he considers everything in terms of materialistic conception of good and evil. Okay. Sārārtha-darśinī commentary. Less intelligent people cannot act properly. Wise men who are beyond the concept of finding faults and qualities automatically give up activities that are prohibited by the scriptures, even though they no longer have such dualistic outlook. It's just an automatic thing. And they automatically act in a way that is approved by the scriptures. As an innocent child acts spontaneously and not under the influence of duality, the actions of a wise man are also spontaneous. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. From the external point of view, an innocent child, not knowing the consequences of an action, may sometimes appear to reject sinful activities and be attracted to pious activities, as when a child spontaneously exhibits a generous nature. Similarly, transcendentalists do not become intoxicated by mundane knowledge. They are situated beyond the mentality of finding faults and qualities. They are situated beyond the mentality of finding faults and qualities, and realize that Kṛṣṇa alone is the object of service. Sarvabhuta surichanto jnana vijnana nishchaya pashyan madatmakam vishvam na vipaddeta vaipuna. The self-realized souls who are firmly fixed in knowledge and realization and who are equal to all living entities know this material world as a manifestation of my energy, and thus do not again become entangled in the bondage of material existence. Purport. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. Self-realized souls see all objects of this world to be related to Kṛṣṇa. They never fall into material existence on account of their spirit of enjoyment. They make friendship with all living entities, knowing them to be ingredients for Kṛṣṇa's worship. They are naturally peaceful and undisturbed because of their expertise in the field of knowledge and its practical application. No mundane temptation can distract their minds from the lotus feet of Kṛṣṇa. Those who fail to see this world as a house of happiness because of their unsuccessful attempts to enjoy this world engage in fruitive activities to achieve material enjoyment. When they become disgusted with material enjoyment, they want to temporarily renounce such enjoyment. That is why Sri Gaurasundar has instructed about Phalugu Vairagya and Yukta Vairagya, which are confidential purports of Srimad Bhagavatam meant for the understanding of fortunate living entities. Shri Shuka Uvacha Ityadishto Bhagavata Mahabhagavato Nripa Uddhava Pranipatyaha Tattvam Jigyasurachutam. Sri Shukadeva Gosvāmī said, O king, after Lord Kṛṣṇa instructed Uddhava in this way, the Mahabhagavat Uddhava, who had a desire to know the spiritual truth, offered obeisances to the Lord and spoke as follows. Shri Uddhava Uvacha Yogesha yoga vinyasa, yogatman yoga sambhava, nishreyasaya me proktas, tyaga sannyasa lakshana. Sri Uddhava said, "My dear Lord, you award the fruit of yoga. You are the knower of mystic yoga. You are the personification of yoga, and you are pleased by the execution of bhakti yoga. For my ultimate benefit, you have explained to me the procedure for accepting the renounced order of life." Sārārtha-darśinī. O my Lord, you are Yogeshwar, because you are the controller of karma yoga, jnana yoga, and bhakti yoga. You are yoga vinyas, meaning that you are imparting to me the knowledge of yoga, although I am unqualified to receive it. O Yogatman, you are the personification of yoga. So if I attain you, then I will attain all types of mystic yoga. Moreover, you will take birth in the house of a devotee because of his devotional service. Therefore, please always award devotional service to me in a special way. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. Uddhava has addressed Lord Kṛṣṇa in this verse as Yogesha. Shri Kṛṣṇa alone is the object of worship, and he alone is to be attained through the practice of devotional service. When one understands the characteristics of devotional service, one's propensity for enjoying mundane objects becomes vanquished. Materialists are attached to hearing and chanting the topics of their wives and children. Learned scholars are attached to hearing and chanting the topics of scriptural debates. Yogis are attached to the distress produced from controlling their life air. Ascetics are attached to the performance of austerities. And pseudo-renunciants are attached to the cultivation of dry speculative knowledge. But the servants of Sri Chaitanya are always fixed in the path of bhakti yoga. Because the devotees of the Lord have adopted the process of devotional service, which is inclusive of detachment, giving up all other inferior attachments, they are real renunciates, are yukta vairagis. That is why the Supreme Lord is addressed here as Yogesha. Because the servants of Yogeshwar, like Uddhava, dovetail all other yoga processes in the execution of bhakti yoga, the Lord is addressed here as yoga vinyas. Because the constitutional propensities of the living entities clearly manifest in the practice of bhakti yoga, the Lord is called Yogatma. In addition, because he is the source of all types of yoga, he is referred to as yoga sambhava. Only persons who are situated in devotional service achieve the supreme benefit of life, and thus are able to properly give up all non-devotional propensities. That is the most beneficial thing that can happen to a spirit soul. Sri Kṛṣṇa has mercifully taught this Paramahansa Dharma in the form of Bhakti Yoga to Uddhava. Paramahamsya Dharma in the form of Bhakti Yoga to Uddhava. Renouncing the enjoyment of the fruits of one's karma and rejecting the fruits of jnana, or the cultivation of impersonalism, cannot be the cause of the living entity's ultimate benefit, because such activities are temporary and dependent. Those who have no interest in hearing the topics of the Supreme Lord are perpetually diverted from the transcendental mellows as a result of being misguided by different yoga processes, such as Hatha Yoga, Karma Yoga, Raja Yoga, and Jnana Yoga. When mundane ras displays prominence, then such people, in order to neutralize it, endeavor to practice different kinds of mystic yoga processes and thus are perpetually bereft of bhakti yoga. Tyago yam dushkaro bhuman kamanam vishayatmabhi sutram tvayi sarvatman Sutaram tvai sarvatmam bhaktar iti me mati. My dear Lord, O Supersoul of all, I think that it is extremely difficult for those whose minds are attached to sense gratification and who are bereft of devotion unto you to renounce material desires. Sārārtha-darśinī. If it is difficult to follow this process even for your devotees whose minds are still attached to material enjoyment, then there is no doubt that it must be very difficult for the non-devotees. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. Uddhava said, "The devotees of the Supreme Lord never desire to accept anything that has not been first offered to the Lord. Therefore, apart from the ingredients of the Lord's service, it is natural for them to give up the desire for enjoying objects that are not related to the Lord. But lusty non-devotees, who are busy collecting objects for sense gratification, are fit to be called materialists, because they have no propensity for the Lord's service. There is no possibility for such people to give up the desire for enjoying objects that are not related to the Lord. This is my opinion." Soham mamahamiti muramatir vigardas tvanmayaya virachitatmani sanubandhe tat tvanjasa nigaditam bhavatayataham samsadhayami bhagavan anushadhibhrityam. My dear Lord, I am certainly foolish because I consider my body and bodily relations to be all in all, even though these things are simply products of your illusory energy. Thus I think, I am this body, and these relatives and possessions are mine. My Lord, please instruct your foolish servant so that I can give up this illusion and surrender at your lotus feet. Sārārtha-darśinī. My mind is absorbed in mundane conceptions because I am attached to my body, wife, and children, which are created by Maya. The material body is just like a blind well. Therefore, it is my first duty to protect myself from that well. Then the knowledge that will be gained by following the Lord's instructions will automatically follow. This is the sum and substance of this verse. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. Those who are attacked by nam aparad in the form of maintaining the conception of I and mine pollute their real ego due to the influence of the illusory energy of the Lord of Vaikuntha. At that time, they display no power to follow the instruction of the Supreme Lord because, due to lack of surrender, the living entities become bewildered by false ego. Due to the influence of false ego, the living entities become averse to the Supreme Lord and are then bound up by the ropes of Maya. On that platform, the constitutional position of the living entities becomes covered. In other words, their inclination towards the Lord's service slows down considerably. This is why Uddhava is praying to Kṛṣṇa to remain situated in the service propensity without deviation. Let me just check the comments really quick. Hare Krishna Rajbhuvan Yadavji. Haribo, Dandavat pranams Madhavi Didi and Cristiano Luna. The two types of vairagya mentioned, one is Falgu vairagya and the other is Yukta vairagya. So Falgu vairagya means it's like it's vairagya, but you want to get something, you want to get some fruit out of it. It's fruit of renunciation. And just like a monkey will seem like he's very renounced, doesn't wear any clothes, doesn't have any possessions, but the monkey's always greedy for getting more, trying to get things, and stealing things. And you see a monkey isn't an actual renunciate, even though externally it looks like he is. So that's Falgu vairagya. And Yukta vairagya is renunciation in which we we engage everything, we connect everything with Kṛṣṇa. So externally, somebody who's following Yukta vairagya, they might not even, they might not seem like a renunciate, like they're, flying in airplanes and doing all sorts of things like that. But actually, they're using all of Kṛṣṇa's creation, like all products of the material energy in Kṛṣṇa's service. So that's Yukta vairagya. Right. Hare Krishna Ganga Mata ji, Dandavat Pranam. Hare Krishna Raj Bhuvan Yadav ji. Okay. Satyasya te svadrisha atmana atmanonyam vaktaramisha vibudeshvapi nanuchakshe sarve vimohita dhiyastava maya yeme brahmadayastanu bahirartha bhava. My dear Lord, you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and by your mercy, you reveal yourself to the hearts of your pure devotees. Other than you, I do not see anyone who can impart to me perfect knowledge. You are the perfect teacher, and not the demigods in the heavenly planets. In fact, the demigods, even Lord Brahma, are bewildered by energy, Maya. The demigods are also conditioned souls who accept their material bodies and bodily expansions as ultimate reality. Yeah, the demigods are also conditioned souls who accept their material bodies and bodily expansions as ultimate reality. Sārārtha-darśinī. The word satyasya in this verse has been used in a dative case. That's giving, right? That's a like you give on to something. That's a dative case, which means that knowledge about the self has been produced from you because let me reread this. The word satyasya in this verse has been used in a dative case, which means that knowledge about the self has been produced from you because you are the basis of all time, place, and circumstances. You are the supersoul, and I am different from you. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. Although the Supreme Lord is sometimes counted amongst the demigods, he is nevertheless the self-manifest absolute truth, the supersoul, and the eternal personality of Godhead. Although partial power of supremacy of the Supreme Lord is present in the although the partial power of supremacy of the Supreme Lord is present in the Vaishnav demigods, the moment they fail to display an eagerness for the service of the Supreme Lord, they fall down from the worship of the Lord and plunge into the ocean of forgetfulness. Therefore, if one is to consider the position of the demigods who are devoid of service to the Supreme Lord, one will find that they lack self-manifest complete knowledge. From this, one can understand that the Supersoul, Lord Vishnu, is separate from the living entities, such as the demigods. Demigods like Brahma, who are approachable by human knowledge, have a difference between their body and their self. All of them are bewildered by the illusory energy of Vishnu and consider the objects of the external world as the goal of their lives. The worshippers of the demigods, who are attracted to the material sense objects, sound, touch, form, taste, and smell, are similarly covered like their respective objects of worship by the illusory energy of the Lord Maya. Aversion to the service of the Supreme Lord is the proof of their non-devotional endeavors. This statement of Uddhava is greatly admired by the servants of Sri Chaitanya. They do not consider Sri Chaitanya Dev, who is non-different from the son of the king of Vraj, to be merely a spiritual master like Rishabdev or Vyasadeva. Tasmar bhavantam anavadyamananta param sarvagyamishwaram akunta vikunta dishnyam nirvinnadhir aham uhe vrijinabhitapto narayanam narasakam sharanam prapadye. Therefore, O Lord, feeling weary of material life and tormented by its distresses, I now surrender unto you, because you are the perfect master. You are the same Narayan who is beyond the influence of material time and space. You are the unlimited, all-knowing Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose spiritual abode in Vaikuntha is free from all disturbances. You are free from all faults, and you are the sole benefactor of all living entities. Sārārtha-darśinī. O Lord, I am especially tortured by material miseries. Therefore, I surrender unto you. Sometimes a person may possess all good qualities, yet may commit sinful activities. So, how to give up all material association is being described here. The Lord is unlimited, or he who has no end. In other words, the Lord is beyond the influence of material time and space. Some people are ungrateful, but you are not so. But you are not ungrateful. You are omniscient. Some people cannot give protection, but you are not like that. You give protection. You are the supreme controller. Some people are a source of inauspiciousness, but you are not like that. You are all full of auspicious. Your abode in Vaikuntha is free from anxiety and the material time factor. You are Narayan. You are the supreme shelter of even the Purusha avatars. You are most compassionate because you are the ever well-wisher of all living entities. You appear in this world simply to exhibit your mercy to the conditioned souls. So that was Sārārtha-darśinī, now Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. O Lord, the demigods fulfill our desires. Because the demigods who supply our necessities are not omniscient, rather they are unlimited living entities of this material world created by Maya. So because the demigods who supply our necessities are not omniscient, whatever. I don't see how the sentence fits. Anyways, rather they are unlimited living entities of this material world created by Maya. You are actually the true friend of all living entities. Because I have a tendency to commit sinful activities and I am greedy, I have no other alternative than to take shelter at your lotus feet. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Prayena Manujaloke Lokatattva Vichakshana Samudharanti Atmanam Atmanaiva Shubhashayat. The Supreme Lord said, generally, persons who are able to understand the truth of this material world try to elevate themselves beyond such a life of inauspiciousness, which simply consists of gross sense gratification. So persons who are able to understand the truth of this material world try to elevate themselves beyond such a life of inauspiciousness, which simply consists of gross sense gratification. Sārārtha-darśinī. Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa replied to Uddhava, you are thinking yourself to be a fool, but I do not find a wise man like you among all learned persons. It is seen in this world that some people who are inferior to you attain spiritual knowledge on the strength of their own intelligence, even without accepting instructions from their spiritual master. Haribo, Hare Krishna. But you are the crest jewel among all wise men. You know the spiritual science instructed by me. Often, many experienced people who are aware of the consequences of auspicious and inauspicious activities cannot deliver themselves from the inauspicious desire of material enjoyment. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. Only those who give up all endeavors to satisfy the demands of the body and mind, which are opposites to their constitutional positions, are actually self-realized and are able to deliver themselves from the desire for material enjoyment. Text 20. Atmano gururatmaiva purushasya visheshata Yat pratyakshanumanabhyam shreyosav anuvindate. O Uddhava, the Self is the foremost spiritual master of the human beings, because the Self can attain supreme auspiciousness on the strength of his direct and indirect perceptions. Sārārtha-darśinī. A person can sometimes achieve the highest auspiciousness directly, and sometimes through indirect perception. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. Oops. Yeah, Rukmini, it's true. Satyasya is genitive. Yeah, I didn't get that. Okay, Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. The conditioned state can never create inauspiciousness to those who are self-realized. Therefore, self-realized souls accept therefore, self-realized souls accept the supersoul as their spiritual master, without being entangled in the material conception of life. Such self-realized liberated souls, though living in this world, actually attain auspiciousness by using the two kinds of evidence, direct and indirect perception. Purushatve chamam dhira sankhya yoga visharadha avistaram prapashyanti sarvashaktyupabrimhitam. Those who are expert in the science of Sankhya Yoga and are self-controlled can directly see me along with all my potencies. Commentary. Many among such human beings can realize me. Those who are sober and non-envious can certainly understand me. Those who know Sankhya Yoga and Bhakti Yoga can also realize me. It is stated in the Shruti, Purushatve chavistaram atmasahita pragyanena sampannatamo vigyatam vadati vigyatam pashyati veda shashvatanam veda lokaloko martenamritam ipsatevam sampanno te taresham pashunam asana pipase eva bigyanam. The human form of life is endowed with sufficient intelligence so that one can imbibe transcendental knowledge. While in the human form of life, one can speak about his realizations, see the truth of material existence, understand the future consequences of his actions, and thus appreciate the existence not only of this world, but also the next. By experiencing the futility of material existence, the soul in the human form can inquire about immortality. This is the purpose of human life, because the human body can enable one to achieve perfection. When a human being becomes advanced by spiritual practice, he will see the futility of the activities of the animals, which are simply eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. People who are maddened by material enjoyment consider all visible articles as the objects of their temporary sense enjoyment. They consider the Supreme Lord to be important, and thus deny I said important, I meant to say impotent. They consider the Supreme Lord to be impotent, and thus they deny his existence. But those steady and thoughtful people who have mastered the science of self-realization and devotional service realize that the all-powerful Supreme Lord is present in every object. Ekadvitri chatuspado bahupadastatapada bhavya santi pura srishtas tasam me porushi priya. In this material world, there are varieties of created bodies, some with one leg, others with 2 legs, 3 legs, 4 legs, many legs, and still others with no legs. Amongst all such bodies, the human form is very dear to me because it awards one the ultimate goal of life. Commentary, Sārārtha-darśinī. Now, the Lord is glorifying the human body by saying one leg, etc. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. According to their karma, the conditioned souls receive different types of bodies. Because they are materially conditioned, they accept their material body to be their self. Among all such bodies, the human form is dear to the Supreme Lord because only in the human form is one capable of achieving the ultimate goal of life. Atramam mrigayantyada yukta hetu virishvaram griyamanar gunar lingar agrahyam anumanataha. Although my form is not directly seen by ordinary sense perception, those situated in human life may use their intelligence and other faculties of perception to directly search for me through both apparent and indirectly ascertained symptoms. Sārārtha-darśinī. The living entities who have received the living entities who have received human forms can directly search for me, the supreme controller of all. The devotees worship me by the process of devotional service, beginning with hearing and chanting. I have already stated that I am known only through devotional service. Now the question may arise that since the Lord is the source of everything, including the intelligence, how can one realize him through sense perception and mental speculation? The answer is that guesswork undertaken by use of intelligence is unacceptable. By such guesswork, the dependent living entity tries to reach a conclusion, but the independent supersoul is not fully realized by such a process. The Supreme Lord Kṛṣṇa is beyond the reach of dry arguments. His forms, qualities, pastimes, and opulence are all inconceivable. Therefore, he is not realized through indirect sense perception. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. Only human beings can realize the existence of the Supreme Lord with the help of direct and indirect perception after seeing cause and effect, temporary and permanent nature, and the external and internal causes in this material world. Atrapyudaharanti mang itihasam puratanam avadutasya samvadam yadur amitatejasaha. Now I will relate to you a historical narration concerning a conversation between the greatly powerful King Yadu and a most intelligent Avadut. Sārārtha-darśinī. Now I will relate to you an ancient conversation that took place between an Avadut and King Yadu, which will shed light on your understanding of the Supersoul. Avadhutam dviyam kanchij charantam akuto bhayam akavim nirikshatarunam yadhu prapachadharmavid. Once upon a time, Maharaj Yadu, who himself was most learned in spiritual science, saw an Avadut Brahman who appeared to be young and wise, wandering about fearlessly. Maharaj Yadu took the opportunity and inquired from the Brahman as follows. Shri Yadur Uvacha Kuto Buddhir Idam Brahman Akartu Suvisharada Yam Asadya Bhavalokam Vidvangsharati Balavat. Shri Yadu said, O Brahmana, I can see that you are not practicing any kind of spiritual discipline, and yet you have gained perfect understanding of everything and everyone within this world. Kindly tell me how you developed your extraordinary intelligence. Why do you wander over the earth, behaving as if you are a mere child? Prayo dharmartha kameshu Vivitsayam chamanava hetunaiva samihanta ayusho yashasa shriya. People in this world often cultivate religiosity, economic development, and sense gratification, and also the science of self-realization. And their usual motive is to achieve a long duration of life, acquire fame, and enjoy material opulence. Sārārtha-darśinī. Although they desire to know about religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and the self, people in general think that these will benefit them with a long duration of life and so on. Tvang tu kalpa kavir daksha subhago mrita bhashana Nakarta nehase kinchij jadon mata pishachavat. Although you are able, wise, expert, handsome, and a sweet speaker, You are not engaged in doing anything. Rather, you appear to be acting like an inert madman, as if you are a ghostly creature. Comment Sārārtha-darśinī. Yadu, the son of Yayati, is saying, "You are not the performer of any action, and you do not want anything. It is not that you are not doing anything because of ignorance. You are capable. It is not that you lack expertise. You are expert in all activities. It is not that you are ugly, and hence you do not wish to associate with a woman. You are definitely handsome. You speak less. It is not that you are a learned person. It is not that you are not a learned person, but you do not wish to converse with anyone. O Brahmana, despite all these, why are you behaving like a dumb person? Janeshu dahyamaneshu kamalobhadavagnina natapyase gnina mukto gangam bhasta iva dvipaha. Although human beings in this world are burning in the forest fire of lust and greed, you remain free and are not burned by that fire. You appear to be like a peaceful elephant in the midst of the water of the cooling Ganges. Commentary. Sārārtha-darśinī. You are young and still you are not afflicted by lusty desires. What is the reason behind this? People in this world are always suffering from lust, greed, and so on. However, you are free from such suffering and thus appear to be like an elephant standing in the water of the Ganges. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. There is an abundance of water in the Ganges. The water of the Ganges can extinguish any fire. As the waves of the Ganges can extinguish the fire of lust of an intoxicated elephant and make him peaceful, although human beings in this world are always disturbed by enemies such as lust, you are an avadut. And because you are not overwhelmed by lusty desires, you are not disturbed by the fire of lust, like an elephant situated in the water. Tvam hina prichatam brahman atmanyanandakaranam bruhi sparsha vihinasya bhavata kevalatmana. O great Brahmana, I see that you are devoid of any contact with material enjoyment, and that you are traveling alone without any companions or wife and children. Therefore, because I am sincerely inquiring from you, please tell me the cause of the great ecstasy that you feel within yourself. Sārārtha-darśinī. According to the logic that one who has a mouth will speak, I wish to know from where you are getting this unlimited happiness. You are completely aloof from sense enjoyment, but still you are receiving so much happiness. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. The sense objects, form, taste, smell, sound, and touch, cannot attack those liberated souls who are fully engaged in the devotional service of the Supreme Lord and who are freed from the desire for material enjoyment. Those who are attached to material form, taste, and so on become entangled by the affection of their wife and children. You are an avadut, and so I want to know why you are experiencing transcendental bliss, even though you are not intoxicated by worldly happiness. Okay, and now we come to the last verse, right? I think we were reading up to verse 31. Let me just check. Yep, verse 31. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Yadunaiva Mahabhago Brahmanyena Sumedasa Prishtaha Sabhajita Praha Prashraya Vanatam Dvija. The Supreme Lord said, when the Avadut Brahman was thus respected and spoken to in this way by the intelligent King Yadu, who is the benefactor of the Brahmins, Being pleased with the king's respectful attitude, he began to humbly reply. Commentary. Sārārtha-darśinī. The Supreme Lord said, O most fortunate Uddhava, when the wise King Yadu pleased the Avadut by his service, he began to speak as follows. Shri Brahman. Oh wait. Okay. So we will hear what the king has to say tomorrow. Sorry, we'll see what the Avadut has to say tomorrow. Sorry, guys. Shri Brahmana Uvacha. I'm just going to read this. The Avadut Brahman said, My dear king, I have received knowledge from many spiritual masters who are present in this world. It is because of this that I am able to freely wander about in this world. Now please hear as I describe these spiritual masters to you, the 24 gurus. So we'll begin hearing about the 24 gurus tomorrow. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaur Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Jai Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari Shri Radha Vinod Bihari Ju Ki Jai. Shri Govinda Gopinath Maran Mohan Ju Ki Jai. Nittil Pravishta Om Vishnupad Ashtatara Shata Shishimar Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Gosvāmī Maharaj Shri Gurudev Ki Jai. Nittil Pravishta Om Vishnupad Ashtatara Shata Shishimar Bhakti Vedanta Vaman Gosvāmī Maharaj Ki Jai. Nittil Pravishta Om Vishnupad Ashtatara Shata Shishimar Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Shri Prabhupāda Ki Jai. Nittil Pravishta Om Vishnupad Ashtatara Shata Shishimar Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Gosvāmī Maharaj Ki Jai. Nittil Pravishta Om Vishnupad Ashtatara Shata Shishimar Bhaktisiddhānta Sarasvatī Gosvāmī Prabhupāda Ki Jai. Nittil Pravishta Bhagavat Śrīla Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Nittil Pravishta Śrīla Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Ṭhākura Ki Jai. Nittil Pravishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Śrīla Jagannatha Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Rupa Gauḍīya Guru Varga Ki Jai. Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath. Shri Jiva Gopala Padadas Raghunath Shara Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Śrīla Haridas Ṭhākura Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Kshetra Mandala Gaura Mandala Braja Mandala Mathura Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Sarva Abhishta Pradata Giriraj Maharaj Ki Jai. Radha Kunda Shama Kund Yamuna Ganga Tulsi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Samagata Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Shri Uddhava-gīta Ki Jai. Śrīla Viśvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura Sārārtha-darśinī Vritti Ki Jai. Śrīla Bhaktisiddhānta Sarasvatī Gosvāmī Prabhupāda Virachit Gauḍīya Bhāṣya Ki Jai. Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Vrindai Tulsi Devai Priyai Keshavashacha Krishna Bhakti Pradadevi Sattvatai Namo Namaha Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Dandavat pranams everybody. Hare Krishna Sharma ji and Rukmini Didi Hari Bol. Dandavat pranams everybody. Indira Mataji. Right. See you all tomorrow to begin reading about the 24 gurus. Hari Bol. Thanks, Rukmini Didi. Hare Krishna.